That's also way.
Please, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't like my bed.
Oh,
Yeah.
I heard you don't.
Not it was.
top 5 with Mike.
Topic's gonna be things you find in the house.
Fifth pick, underfloor heating.
This guy's bougie, I'm telling you. Island, dishwasher, underfloor heating.
How do we straddle the balance of like being Christians and also like enjoying life as well?
Your lens is different. Like the way you see life, the way you see people, the way you see like your faith kind of like changes.
It's not even that, but it's just.
Hello, hi. How's everyone doing?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. It's been a good week.
Come on.
Can't complain, man. Do you know what I mean, man?
Mike, you got a little game for us. What are we doing? We're doing the top 5 draft again.
Yeah, we do top 5 draft.
What topic should we do today?
Mike's top 5s.
Top 5 draft. I really like this game.
You really like
Top 5 with Mike.
Especially.
top five.
So the topic. The topic is gonna be things you find in the house.
Okay.
Yeah. So the top 5 best things you find in the house. Man, I discussed it.
Top 5 best things you find in your house.
Yeah. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to have first pick or do we do
I
this?
want to hear your example.
So I start.
You start.
Who's going to be second pick?
We got this one.
Let's go.
Let's go this way.
around, yeah.
Alright, cool.
Keep it easy.
For my first pick, top 5 things you find in the house. Fridge.
Okay.
Important. I don't even think I need to defend that one.
Very true.
Fridge
Very
is so
crucial. Very
important.
crucial.
Fridge is so important.
Okay.
Fair.
I think that's a great first pick.
Why are you laughing?
My first pick is an island.
Oh, what?
This
An
is
island,
too
an
much.
island.
Rich.
Thank
This
you.
guy's rich. It's not even a common feature of a household.
I mean, go
Okay.
for it.
Wait, but is that an item?
I think I know
Yeah,
why
yeah.
he wants.
No, it's things
I
found in
know
the
why.
house.
Things found in the house.
Things
Okay.
found in the house.
Can you explain why though? For this one, can you explain
Yeah,
why for
why
this one?
an island?
I think
It's where he eats.
Yeah.
You get it?
Wow.
Why
Mike, eh?
that bitch I go over here?
No, it didn't.
That's
We're
what
just trying to keep it PG.
Yeah, you get it.
Like,
So we do in Costa Rica.
I'll say microwave.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Okay.
lie.
I think there's a better one for that.
Yeah.
But
Oven.
Okay.
A lot of people say that's not good, you know.
What, microwave?
Yeah.
I'd have taken oven with my first pick. If
But
you were
bro,
gonna go that
where do you
way.
warm your food all the time?
Oven.
In the oven.
Yeah.
All your food you warm in
Yeah.
the oven.
Yeah.
You have time.
yeah, where'd you get time? Let's go.
I'm taking microwave.
I don't wait for it to heat.
For me, first pick, bed. You know?
Yeah.
After you rest your
Sensible.
head
I was gonna go for
and
bed.
do other
That's
things.
That's
you
also
know?
way.
Please, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't like my bed.
I heard you don't.
Not it was.
Pause. Hey, pause. We're doing a different topic now, man.
I'm sorry.
Now,
I'm sorry.
different topic.
I'm sorry. You might let this
This is
go.
actually what we said at the start.
I'm sorry. Anyway,
don't.
I was gonna say bed still. That's a good one. Top 5 things in our house. Fam, I would hope there's a toilet.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one.
that's a good first pick. That was my second pick, but it's good.
Okay.
It's a good one.
I think I'm gonna go with a bin.
That's a good. That's a good
No,
one.
it's true because you can
Okay.
clear the yard. You can clear the yard.
Go with a
You
bin.
can clear the yard.
There's no sperm. For my second pick, I'm gonna go TV.
Oh, yes.
I need some
You need
entertainment.
anything.
Yeah.
My second pick, I'm going for sofa.
Okay.
Martins,
I
yeah.
need to be comfortable.
So far, that's a good pick. That's a good pick.
Martins, yeah.
Second pick, I'm going with a shower.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good
Gotta
one.
stay clean.
That's a good one.
True.
I would say for my second pick, I would say a tap You need to be able to wash your things.
Okay, water, a source of water. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said
I don't know what the hell is wrong with you, man.
The way you say it,
Okay, I just think, fam, I hate washing plates, fam.
I thought you were saying,
You're a dishwasher guy.
I thought you say what?
that's what I was thinking, bro.
Do you wash it?
You guys, let's stay steady, please. Thank you.
Guys. Anyway, next
Let's
pick.
be
Oh,
guys.
God, help us, man, please.
Yeah, my next pick would be a bed, therefore.
Okay.
A bed?
Can you repeat what someone said?
No, you can't repeat it.
I can't repeat.
No, you can't repeat it.
That's new rules, man.
No problem. So my first pick was a toilet. Second pick. Ooh. Oh, this gets tough. Gets tough.
It does
It's
get
tough. Well, you guys have said the key things, bro.
Nah, bro.
Yeah, there's stairs.
All right. Keys to the property.
I mean, it's true. How you gonna get it?
It's an abstract one. I gotta take it as high.
It's not really in the house.
Yeah,
the majority of the
Well,
time.
you need
Yeah,
keys to
it's
get
in
in
the
the
house,
house,
though.
so
I hear it. I hear it.
You need keys to get
It's
in, so
abstract,
you know
I
it
hear it,
works.
I hear
It
it.
works.
I think I was taking it as high, but okay, cool.
I'm gonna go upstairs.
I mean, you can have a bungalow, but
Nah, the stairs is VAR. Stairs is the house though.
Not necessarily.
It's not a thing in the house. Do you have a step ladder to go upstairs, bro?
No, but the thing is, you can have an apartment, which is just one level.
No, but if it's a house that has stairs, the stairs is built into the house.
Please specify, man.
That's it, things in the house.
A
No,
toilet
that's the
in
same.
the house,
That's the
bro.
same as
All right,
island,
cool.
though.
Okay,
I feel
let's work.
Yeah, therefore.
We're gonna.
Because you said island.
Island.
So
that's-
stairs.
Island, he said toilet.
I will give it to you.
shower.
Okay, cool.
I like the separation.
For my third pick, I'm taking cutlery.
Okay.
Yeah, that's important.
You can't fit off your hands.
So what did you say?
Well,
Fridge?
you can.
Fridge, TV, cutlery.
Fridge, TV, curry, no food. Okay,
Going
cool.
to
My list is
different places in
my list
there.
is my list is dope right now.
Third pick, what did I pick first? I picked island. That's good. Second was sofa. Can't lie, I need a dishwasher because this
guy's
guy.
rich.
No, this guy gave me PTSD when he said tap, fam. This guy's rich.
Man said island.
We're doing this
Dishwashers.
I live dishwasher, sofa.
Rich guy.
Shout my baby.
Which one of them?
Wait, who are you?
What's the third big?
Just
What's
for
the
those that
third
didn't hear,
big?
he said which one of them.
What's the? Why did you have to?
For those that didn't hear.
Why did you have to put bars?
You know what, yeah?
Okay, so
I'm coming for you. Oh, okay.
Bro,
I was choosing a cooker. I was choosing a cooker.
yeah.
Cooker. That's a good one. That's gonna be my next pick.
Yeah,
Cooker's good.
very good,
Cooker's
very good. Yeah, you need a laptop. You know, you can have a laptop in the house. Yes, everyone.
I'm saying you need one, but okay, cool.
I heard it. No, I
In this
heard
day
it.
and
I
age,
would have
it's
taken it as
useful.
high.
I
but
heard it.
alright.
In this day and
Definitely.
age, it's useful. A laptop in the house.
laptop.
You get me? Things found.
I don't remember my list.
A partner.
I love that. Abstract. Make a house.
I like that. Abstract.
This guy's a deep thinker.
That was philosophical. I like that one. I like that one. Yeah.
Max multiple parts.
Kids.
Jesus. Is
Alright, put me in, alright, okay.
I like the family.
I'm thinking, so wait, you just want the kids.
New age family fam. New age family fam.
They're not even his kids.
It's just kids. Just kids.
My kids free.
Okay, alright.
I'm gonna go for
Dog.
no, not a dog.
Oh, sorry.
Since we're doing abstract, a printer.
Okay.
Yeah, let you print it.
Now hold on, time out. Passports. Hold on, think about it. Think about the times, yeah, when you needed to print a document. And you didn't have like a printer, or you didn't have ink in your printer. Then you missed the printer.
Okay, but you having a printer and you not having ink doesn't, like...
No, I'm just
still
saying,
doesn't solve
a
the
printer
issue.
is a very useful piece of equipment that should be in every household.
I mean, it's less and less, becoming less and
It's
less.
becoming less and
Getting
less.
more paper.
So when you need to
stuff.
print something,
What do you need
But
to
I
print
found at
these
work,
days?
I've rarely needed to print something.
What do you need to print these
Yeah,
days?
like-
still
And
print.
if I do,
Printer.
just wait till I'm in
My
the
choice.
office.
It's his choice. It's his choice now.
Yo, Shucks.
It works though.
My turn. Toaster.
Ah, that's good.
That's important.
Toaster.
You like bread?
Toast bagels, I can get bread.
You toast the cookie bread.
Yeah, but he's flattening like this.
You flatten it.
Yeah,
You know you could just slice it to the
slice it.
side.
You don't need slice. I think the guy's pressing this out.
you don't understand. You don't understand.
Bread is made dense.
That's all you need. You need to be dense, man. You need to be dense.
slice into the size you need, fam.
When you put the ball in it like this,
Yeah,
oh
Do you
god.
know how funny, the visual of Sheikh tearing bread and compressing it? I want to see it in the toaster. Do you know how funny that visual is?
His bread must be toasted.
Man said tearing bread.
Man, you're pressing the bread.
Bro, when you say press it to get the job, that was
But I don't like slice and giga bread is nonsense, bro.
Nah,
I hear you though.
It's nonsense.
you're capping.
Slice and giga bread.
So when
Yes,
you
bro.
want to toast it, you literally rip it.
I cut it, bro.
It tears
A grill pan. Just
I don't have that. I don't have
No,
this.
I don't mind you tearing it with your hand here. It's when you said what's that person gonna do?
So it does basically.
So it can fit in the toaster.
As a young
Make
kid,
a sandwich, innit?
as a young kid, I've learned that you can't just put a giga bread inside there because you know what happens. The bits,
The flares,
start burning and the smoke starts coming.
But that's why you use a knife.
No, because even if you cut it like that, the bread still needs to be a bit thick. So you want it to be dense. So you
have to cut it to the side.
no, then it's too thin. It's not dense anymore.
He's making French toast.
As if to say you can't just move the knife.
Nah,
It's a big part of the bread.
This guy wants it to
It's gonna be too
Yo, what's your full pick, Jerry?
air fryer.
Oh,
Now that's a bougie one.
that's a good one.
That's a bougie one.
That's a great pick.
Great pick.
That's a really
Yeah,
good
man
pick.
brought it over there still.
swear.
Banging it, bro.
I got one if you linking up.
Go on for me.
Yeah.
How much?
That's funny.
Two.
Yeah, you man take that offline. You see it.
What's your full pick?
Clock. You know, you need to be able to tell what time it is.
You
and
have your
stuff like
phone, bro.
But for decorative purposes
that.
as
Yeah,
well.
what's wrong with that?
troll, bro.
You man are all laughing like there's not a clock right there.
This guy's a troll.
Bro,
TikTok.
bro, you man have got a clock there. How many times are useful? I don't know. You use it all the time. I don't know.
What's your
But it's in the house.
Tortoise. Wardrobe.
Oh yeah, you need to store your clothes.
I hear it.
Keep the drop safe.
You get it.
Wardrobe, yeah? Curtains.
Oh yeah,
You
privacy.
need the privacy. You have kids.
Yeah, especially when you're the kids.
Oh my god. What are we on number 4 now?
Yeah, so that's the end of full. Fifth pick, food.
Nice. Fifth pick.
Fifth pick is food, you said.
Fifth pick, underfloor heating.
This guy's bougie, I'm telling you. Island, dishwasher, underfloor heated.
I said, bro.
Shevon has to be very rich. I'm telling you.
100%. Thank you.
Nah, you're rich.
Over to you, mate.
A multimedia station.
Bruv. So like PS5.
Yeah, so you see how you carve it into the wall and you have the TV and
Ooh.
multimedia, so PS5, speakers, multimedia station. Has to have LED
Man, I'm
lights
showing that
around.
I've lived life. I've seen things in this world. Multimedia. Let go.
Come on.
Okay. What's your fifth pick?
I would just say light bulb. Yeah.
Okay, lights.
What is wrong with this guy,
The thing is, these are great. That's a great pick.
It's this guy,
No, it's essential.
This troll, fam.
It's essential.
He was born in 1980.
This guy.
What the hell does that even mean?
I must have life.
Wait, you were born in Nigeria and you came after me. What are you talking about?
What's your fifth pick, Jerry?
Fifth pick.
I'll go with phone.
Phone. Okay.
Landline or mobile?
Mobile.
Landline's a mad thing now, fam.
Lastly, I'll pick a dining table.
Do you know what mad one we didn't even say?
What's up?
Wi-Fi.
Oh yeah.
Imagine your house without Wi-Fi.
It's calm, bro.
No, that's dead.
Use your phone, fam.
That's true.
Everything.
Use your phone. You're gonna use your data unless you have a
I'm sorry.
So you're gonna add it to everything. You're allowed to use it. So everything you're gonna do. What's that thing, fam?
Yeah.
Hotspot.
Yeah, bro.
Nah, myth.
Your phone bare hot, fam.
I don't mind, fam.
Your phone is bare hot, fam.
Anyway, guys, I can't lie. This week I've been thinking a lot, you know, in terms of like, how do we straddle the balance of like being Christians and also like enjoying life as well? Like, it's something because this year one of my key things is to get closer to God, and like always ask myself like, wow, so does that mean I can't go out, I can't party, I can't link no one, I can't do this, I can't do that? How do you guys like straddle that line? Or does anyone straddle that line, or does everyone just enjoy their life how they want, or do you have to strike a balance? Because for me right now, don't know. I'm working on adjusting my environment to make it easier for me to do it. But it's tough.
I think my question would be, what would your intentions? What are your intentions when you go out? Like, what are you trying to do when you go out? Is it something that isn't sort of always going to push you further away from your goals in that sort of respect in relation to your relationship with God, or what are your intentions on that perspective? So why do you feel like?
I would just say to enjoy myself really. I don't think I really go out with the intention to do anything specific. I think it's more so just to have a good time and a bit of a break from life in general.
So then in that case, I don't think it's a bad thing to go out then, isn't it?
Let me clarify, sorry, from what you said. Is it that you're saying, how do you balance pursuing, the things of the world and enjoying and stuff, whilst trying to build your relationship with God? Is that your question? Okay. My answer to that would be, you shouldn't try and get to a place where you're trying to balance it. It's more a case of, for me, going to God as I am. Like, there's no point sugarcoating that if I struggle with this or I struggle with that. This is how I am, God. And through building that relationship with me, there's a transformation that will occur. So for me, there's things that you previously probably delighted in and you enjoyed. But the closer you get with God, you just start to see your taste for things change. As you get closer with God, you just start to not find certain things appealing anymore, or you realise or you're convicted. So you might still find them appealing, but you can get conviction that, this is wrong. So previously, I don't know, for some people, drinking is not that deep. Like, there's Christians that drink. But you could get to a place where, I don't even want to drink at all. So I think, for me, it's more, as opposed to separating the two and trying to think, how do I be better so I can be close to God? It's just more, just try and get close to God. And then with that, there's a process of things changing within my life, if that makes sense.
And have you gone through that personal journey yourself?
Yeah, man, I think it's a continual thing. So you do have moments in your life where it appears as if, you're better in certain times. So there's periods where you're more in tune with your relationship with God. You're doing your part in relation to that relationship. And there's times when, things are not going so well. You face challenges, difficulties with your faith. But for me, I think what always helps me is not to lie. Like, don't pretend. You can't lie to God. Like, you can't pretend. There's no point trying to say, let me not go to motives because then I may get close to God. God knows the concept of your heart. So I may be not trying to go to motives, but really and truly, my heart is in that motive. And even though I'm not there, I'm looking at every snap and trying to pray, and I'm essentially in the motive. So what's helped me is just saying, wherever stage I'm at, wherever I am in life, just say, this is me, God, innit? And it's more allowing God to do the transformation as opposed to pretending that I can transform and then be close to God. Do you get what I mean? And that's what differentiates us from other faiths. Yeah. Because our judgment is not based on you ticking certain boxes and then you be in right standing with God. You have to. It's not a works thing. Yeah, it's not a works thing. It's a heart thing. So that's a bit more complex, and there's a lot more nuance than some other faiths. It's more a case of you going to God as you are, and then He'll transform you, and you become a better version of yourself.
Nice. How about everyone else? Like, how have you guys' personal journeys with God been in terms of, like, as you grow older, become more of an adult? Obviously, as a child, your parents were probably the ones making you go to church. Now that's become more deliberate for you. How have you guys handled that journey? Paige, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. It's interesting you mentioned the point about like parents and stuff like that. I feel like when we were younger, for some of us, I can only speak for myself, to be fair, but there was this emphasis of your parents trying to like force you to go to church and stuff like that, and you may not kind of understand like what you're even doing there or what they're talking about and stuff like that. But I feel like personally, I'm actually happy my mum did that. Not saying that is the only way and that everyone should do that, but I can see what how it kind of played a part in my life, my spiritual journey. And I'd say it gave me exposure to God and spirituality at a younger age and maybe more thought-provoking in those kind of discussions and things. So it made me quite inquisitive with those things, and it made me want to search more. And then through wanting to search more, you find more things out, you read, you have discussions, and I feel like that helped me to kind of build my feet a little bit from a younger age, I'd say. And then obviously transitioning to when you're like an adult now, it's almost like those training wheels come off. So your parents are not gonna force you to go anywhere. It's now down to you. So it's up to you. How much do you really wanna see God when you're older is gonna determine, you know, how much of him you obtain. Like, it's not gonna be forced upon you anymore. Now it's down to you. So I feel like for me, the early stages of my spiritual walk and being like engrossed in all of that is a key factor to why I'm able to stay in it.
I want to try to tease out a lot of my personal stories out of everyone today, innit? So if I go a bit deep, isn't it? But would you say there was a moment for you where you said, okay, actually, you know what? God, it's time for me to take you serious? Or was it a thing where you was always like, okay, this year I'm going to try better, this year I'm going to try better, this year I'm going to try better? Or was there a moment you said to yourself, you know what? Nah, that life don't make no sense, I'm going to try to push forward?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was uni, for sure.
Okay.
So I feel like when you serve, it kind of triggers something in you that's different. It's quite hard to explain, but it's just like when your growth is like, it's not even just dependent on you anymore. It's like to edify other people. It's like your lens is different. Like the way you see life, the way you see people, the way you see like your faith kind of like changes because you feel a sense of responsibility. So I feel like uni gave me that opportunity to grow and kind of stand on my feet and realize and assume my responsibility. And then, yeah, to be able to walk on my own 2 feet.
Anyone else? Where was that moment you said, okay, cool. It's okay if you haven't had that moment as well, by the way. So I'll talk about my life as well.
What's the actual question? Like,
In terms of, have you had a moment where you've said, okay, cool, I'm going to really go for God right now? Or has it been a thing of where you try on a yearly basis, like, God, you know, I'm going to give it a go, I'm going to give it a go? Both I think are okay, but I was just curious just to see what people's journeys have been like and what experiences have been with, like, encountering Christ. Or whatever religion you encounter.
I don't think for me it's necessarily like that. I think it's one of those ones where like, so I feel like there's the Christian aspect and then there's the personal relationship with God. And I feel like I put more emphasis in the personal relationship with God than the Christian, because with the Christian side of things, the religion, it kind of puts you in a position where you kind of want to follow a template and you want to sort of fit within a certain mold of how Christians should be. Whereas when you have that personal relationship with God, it doesn't matter about the exterior. It matters about the interior and like that connection that you have with God type of thing. Because a lot of people play the role, but in their hearts, like they're not really, like that's why I like what Bissy said in terms of like, you know, let's say for instance, you feel like getting closer to God would be like, I don't know, not going to party, but in your heart you want to be at that party. But you think, oh, because I'm not there, or yeah,
God, Christian.
Yeah, I'm Christian, but it's like your heart is really there type thing. It's like you're not really like tricking God type thing. But for me, I think it's more like you sort of your connection to God is seen in your expression, like your behaviors. Like we glorify God in everything that we do. So it isn't necessarily until like putting it in the Christian faith, it isn't until I necessarily like, you know, sing praise and worship or, you know, go to church and this, that and the other. That would necessarily be, oh yeah, he's a Christian. It's like in my everyday interaction, how do I treat you? What do I do at work? How, like, do you know what I'm saying? How do I treat people? Like, what do I, like, through my works, then that should be a reflection of my internal, my spiritual state internally.
I agree.
Do you get what I'm saying? So for me, it's more a case of, and I feel like with all of us, regardless of what religion you are, what faith you have, God speaks to all of us. It's just a matter of whether you listen. So whether you're Christian, Muslim, whatever, like I feel like God connects with all of us. I feel like we just interpret it and express it differently. So some people express it in Islam, we express it through Christianity. Do you get what I'm saying? So some people some people call it conscience, like we might call it Holy Spirit talking to us. Do you get what I'm saying? So that's how we understand it and how we express it. And I feel like it's the more you seek God, the more it will show in your behavior in terms of you have like God in the back of your mind, and then you see like your behavior changes. Like I don't necessarily put overemphasis in, oh yeah, this year I must, be this. It's just like, cool. Every day I wake up, I was like, okay, cool. What can I do today that will glorify God, or what can I do today that get me one step closer? And sometimes you might take a step forward, you might take 5 back. But do you know what I mean? It's it's all about balance,
I think for myself, it's that combination of what you've all just said, in a sense where first things first for me, it's like there's a difference between being religious and then being spiritual, innit? And then in terms of being religious, sometimes that might be influenced by, some of your relationship with God, innit? So how much you sort of spend time with him, and that over time, your religious side might increase, innit? And obviously, naturally, you start to make certain decisions to sort of abstain or not. So obviously, that more relates to what Bissy was saying. However, for myself, my personal journey, I could see like my parents, they're definitely more spiritual, but because they've been spiritual for a certain amount of time, there's a certain discipline they have with the religious side of things. And obviously that's more harkens to what Hate said in relation to, the church every Sunday, the sort of, reading of the Bible and things like that, and just making time, like literally every day or every week to do certain things. Now, when you were younger, being exposed to those things, like it said, it opened your minds to certain levels of conversation and certain levels of thought that I'm very grateful I was exposed to now, because there's a certain level of depth that you sort of apply to life now that had you not had sort of been in those environments, you might not have thought that way, you might not have seen things that way, you might have been more emotional in a certain way, you might have been easier to get upset in certain ways, but because you've had that sort of upbringing, that sort of foundation, the house has kind of been built on a rock per se. But then the difficulty is when you sort of move from that sort of guided standpoint to now being a man of your own, and you need to now sort of try and emulate or at least create that sort of relationship for yourself. And I think for me, the challenge I've sort of realized is that you think it's easy to sort of do that religious side of things, but until your spirituality is a certain way, bro, it's a lift, do you get me? And I'm not saying that, you have to be religious, because really and truly, like Michael said, bro, there's some people that are so religious, and brother, listen, we see the news, you get it? Like, so people that are the most religious, you see the news. So that doesn't necessarily mean that like being religious is the end all and be all of the, nah, it's not. It's just, there are rules and there are expectations, so therefore obviously it would be nice to try and adhere to them. However, that doesn't define you and your relationship with him. However, like for myself, I've just found it very hard now as a man to sort of say, okay, cool, this is who I am as an individual. Okay, cool, how do I sort of then continuously every day? So you say, was there a one time that you should have had? Bro, I'm more of the every other month or every sort of, I need to sort of try to press the reset button.
Check yourself.
Try and you get me, rejig the thing. But then the beauty of it is, like you can't deceive yourself, you can't deceive God. You get me?
I think the point you were talking about in terms of the discipline, I feel like that's probably what I need to work on as well. Because I think about it with my parents,
fam, I can't
they were they were disciplined with Christ.
For my mom and dad to miss church, something happened that's crazy.
Bro, discipline's
it's
crazy.
Impossible.
Bro, me, it's raining too much. I'll catch you a line. I'll catch you a line.
Let me tell you something. Obviously, like I said again, I was living by myself. Obviously, like I said, I was living by myself or whatever. My parents are used to seeing me in church every Sunday or whatever. Now, obviously, now I'm in my own environment. Whatever,
big man now, yeah.
So it got to a point where, for a year or so, it was very sporadic that you'd see me. Do you know what I mean? Very sporadic. No, not saying that for a whole year I didn't go, but within that year it was very sporadic sort of a thing. To the point where my dad must pull to the side and said, "Young man, fam, is everything alright? How's your thing with God? You sure?" I'm like, "Dad, don't trust me, man loves him still, I'm here. It's just the discipline thing it's mad, bro. It's still on the God team. It's just the discipline, because I understand that, bro, the spirituality of it is real, and I definitely believe and I definitely understand that I ain't got nothing in life without him. It's just that the reality of life is the discipline to go is a next level. I mean, that's why when you show that discipline, you get more, because he understands that it's hard as
yeah,
well.
it's a sacrifice.
Do you understand?
Yeah, it's a
So
One thing that helps me is, bro, getting involved in the church.
no, I
So
get
like
it.
for me now, yeah, like so I help with like the technical department in my church, like help with the setup and like clear down and stuff. It's like if I don't show up to church, like times where like I didn't show up to church because I'm on holiday or whatnot, like they feel it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like if I have that in the back of my mind, I'm like, even if I catch a young boy on a Saturday night, I'm like, I'm gonna be in church like that. Hey, let's go. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So
Who's gonna fix Pastor's mic?
I'm that one who walking to this. Oh, with the pastor, like, pastor, let me fix it. Like, no, my cat. Bring me number 2.
Hey, listen.
Bro, fix the lapel mic, bro. I'm telling you.
Don't you think that makes you feel like you're not actually doing it for that?
What do you mean?
Like you're not actually
Yeah,
going
I was
for
gonna ask
God.
that.
You're not actually going for God. You're going because you have a duty in the church.
I wasn't even going to talk
That's a
about
good
it, but
question, actually.
That is a good way to look at it, but I feel like it's both. I feel like it's both because it is. I could, in as much as they put me in that position, I could still say F it. But it's out of the reverence to God and the impact it will have on the body of Christ and the church as a whole. That's why I take it so serious. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, bro, you can give it. I'm not doing it. I could have said that no from the beginning, but it's like getting it. It's just like being an usher or anything like that. It's, You're not doing it for the people. It's for God type thing.
you know, I hear you, but interesting enough, at my last church, the church I went to before where I am now, I actually left because I felt like I was more engrossed in the work than actually the word. Because I feel like it's so easy, like, bro, you get to church early, you're the first person there, you're setting up, projector, sound, cool. Breathe, it's done, praise and worship. Oh, auntie's too loud, oh, come down. Like, keys and too, bro. And you're not praising, you're not doing praise and worship, bro. You're doing,
It's really like that.
Next slide.
Exactly,
Joshua chapter 6.
that's what you're doing, bro. And like, it's almost like you're just doing rhythm. You're just on rhythm instead of like, raw. These are actually worshipping God.
Yeah.
Like, this is worship. This is a time that I should be zen and I should be like pouring my heart out and be like praying. But you're doing it's anti-loud. I don't. And I said to myself,
Can I challenge that? Because that's your element of worship.
Yeah.
When you do things,
I agree with that. I agree with that. But the thing is, I feel like the reason why I had to move is because I felt like it was compounding into, okay, it's time for sermon now, and now I'm spent. And now I was like, I can't even take in the word. Because even in the word, I'm still trying to do Bible messages to make sure.
So did you feel as if that you wasn't actually growing in your faith?
Exactly. I wasn't growing, but I was almost like giving myself. And that's how I feel for a lot of leaders as well. It's like, raw. And obviously, because I was very young in my faith as well, and I wasn't really of that level where outside of church, I'm going hard. So that's why I would say I had to leave and find someone else so I could just sit and chill. But go on.
Yeah, there's a few things I want to touch on. Initially, when you lot were talking about parents, I think it's always good to appreciate that they've been on a journey too, and they're just in the latter stages of their journey than you are. So a lot of our parents weren't, like, my parents are both pastors, but my dad wasn't always a believer. When my mum met him, he wasn't a Christian like that, but he's now a pastor. I look at him and I'm like, oh, they're so diligent with their relationship with God. But it wasn't always like that. My mum wasn't always pastor as well. So they've been on a journey, and I think we have to appreciate that. I always liken the relationship with God with understanding the relationship that I have with my girl. The great thing about our faith is that it emulates a lot of things that you do in your normal life. So like, if you want to understand how to be a good husband, understand how to have a good relationship with God, because you're emulating the qualities and that. If you want to understand how to be a good father, vice versa. And I always think, okay, am I doing my part in relation to this relationship with God? Because if I am, then things start to fall into place, kind of thing. And it's funny, like, before university, I was brought up in a Christian home. I knew scriptures, I could even preach, but I actually found God for myself in uni, funny enough. Like, I think you go through that time in your life where it's almost like boy becoming a man. So it's like, yes, you've known about it, you know the language, but can you actually partake in, do you actually understand, do you actually believe, do you actually feel it? And the feeling aspect came for me in university. I think prior to that, I couldn't actually say I felt like I knew God, I
Oh,
knew
God,
God is
yeah.
real. That wasn't a doubt in my mind. But the actual genuine relationship,
Presence
that
and that.
kick-started in uni. And I think it's almost because even though uni is a bubble, it's at least one layer of a bubble's popped. What I mean by that is, in the home, you're in a bubble. Then you pop a bit of a layer and you go to the uni bubble, but you're open and exposed to more things than you were at home.
Independence.
Exactly. And I think in having that, I then had to learn, okay, right, this life thing is not a joke. Okay. I'm stressed. How do I deal with stress? Okay. I've got to okay, what do I do when I'm aiming to do something and it may not be going my way? Like, what's this faith? And then you actually had to find God. Like, if it wasn't for God, I would have been finished in uni. He kept me calm. I had peace throughout uni because of that. And I think as believers, you have that process. And then you lot were talking about religion and spirituality. That's a very big topic in a sense. Because if you strip back and think about what religion is essentially, they looked at the disciples following Jesus and they said, these men are trying to be Christ-like, they're Christians. Or if you look at other faiths as well, like religion is essentially man-made. It's the coining of a term to help to explain what a group of people are, what their following is, what their faith is, whatever. They slap a religion, and it's more for the outsiders as opposed to those who are partaking in it. It's just so that they can label them and say this is what they are, so they understand. So I think it's always very important when you're looking at I'm a Christian. What does that actually mean for you? And the first thing I always say is it's not about, don't think I'm a Christian and you look at what does the religion entails. If you look at the Bible, it goes on many times and it's talking about relationship. Don't want to go into scripture, but there's times when Jesus, numerous times, people come to him with questions like, for instance, should I be circumcised or uncircumcised? Because they were talking about Gentiles and Jews and etc. Or they were talking about
Tax.
should we eat pork and all these questions there. And we're just like, listen, all of that, the scripture said circumcision is nothing, uncircumcision is nothing. What's important is your relationship with God. And Jesus said that like 4 times, fam. He just kept telling you, man, your relationship with God is what's important. And I think that is the key thing that really clicked for me in terms of my walk with Christ. Like, if I keep understanding that, above all, forget what the world is trying to label me, what a Christian is meant to be. If I genuinely focus on the relationship with God, understanding who God is, same way in a relationship, you have the dating stage. Who are you? Who am I? Are we a good match? Blah, blah, blah. Do I get you? Do you get me? And then you start to get them. And then through the love of that person, you naturally start to change. Like, it happens in a relationship, funny enough. Like, there's things that you might have been hard-headed with initially, but just because you love your partner so much, over time, you just start to let me not do that, you're not like that. Or little things that, I don't know, you always leave the seat up, but you know it really annoys your girl. No, I'm just saying as a general example, I don't live with my partner, but as an example, like, let's say you always leave the seat up, and you're just like, you know what, it really angers her, you know what? What does it cost me? Let me just drop it. Now, if you actually unlock what that process is, to you, it's not a big deal. I'm just dropping a thing. But what's happening in your mind for you to get to a place where you're actually focusing on dropping it is because your love for that person's increased and you now care about them more than yourself in that situation. And it's the same thing with a relationship with God. It's like, naturally, you know what? It doesn't glorify God to go to this rave, man. What am I going to get at this rave? You know what I'm going. Or I don't want to be waved anymore. What does that do? What do I gain from it? God won't be happy. And you know what? I want to go to church. I'm doing the mics for pastor. Even that stuff about being heavily involved, I'm similar to you guys. I do a lot of stuff in church. I help out wherever I can, help out the youth, the technical department, wherever it needs help. And I remember it was almost like, am I trying to distract? I had the same thing as you. Am I just distracting myself from the fact that I find the service boring? That's why I used to ask myself. When I was like, bro, I can't lie. There's times I've actually sat down and said, you know what, let me make notes today. I'm bored. I was on Instagram.
The sermon wasn't giving.
It wasn't giving. Honestly, like, I was on Insta. I was doing everything.
That's so easy to do.
Everyone is. I was like, raw, like, okay. I was just distracting myself.
One house.
No, I was just distracting myself. I actually wasn't taking it in. And I think you always have to challenge yourself with times like that to evaluate what are you doing in, because what is church? Church is the people, not the building. Yeah, like that's how the Bible describes what a church is. Where 2 or more are gathered in it, there he is in our midst. So you can make a church anywhere. And then if you look at the body of Christ, all of us have different functions. So there are going to be people that need to be ushers. You know, there are going to be people that are pastors, etc. So we are needed to be workers within the body of Christ. But then you also need to ask yourself, am I being like what you had to do? Am I actually growing here? And that's when you might have to move church sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? I'm doing a lot for this church, but in terms of my faith and my life,
Not building.
there's no development here. You know, and sometimes you have to ask yourself that tough question. I remember, I don't know if you don't mind talking about this, Mike, but remember in uni, and there was obviously 2 churches in uni.
Oh.
Yeah, I hope you don't mind.
Yeah.
So there was one, well, we don't need to say the names, but
Church
there
A,
was,
Church B.
Yeah, there was Church A, Church B, yeah. Now, traditionally, me and Michael are Church B kind of guys. The type of background we came from, straight Church B, yeah. So we came and straight away, obviously my dad's a pastor, they have like a network of, yeah, there's this one here, blah, blah. So we're Church B, Church B. I wasn't feeling it. It was weird.
Was praise and worship not making sense?
No, I don't know. Like, you know what? Your spirit tells you something. I just wasn't feeling it. And then ended up going to church. That was Church B, right? Yeah. So I ended up going to Church A, which is very different to what I've known.
I went to Church A.
And this is why it's mad, isn't it? Because, you know, in terms of the faith, there's stuff like, there's some churches that start to look like an identity, and I think that's wrong, personally. A church shouldn't have an identity, a look. Like, that's very wrong, in my opinion. Like, you shouldn't say this is the culture of that church or whatever. But anyway, I went to Church A, and for me, I'm like, what is this, bruv? Like, even this guy, remember when you...
I can just
No
imagine.
way. He'll tell you his impression because we chose the opposite of each other, innit?
Okay.
I went to Church A, and my spirit just felt like full there. It felt like, and honestly, I'm so thankful to God I went to that church because I ended up going to, they used to have Monday Bible service, they had Thursday prayer meeting, they had Friday was a Kairos thing, which was more relaxed, but I went to everything. But I was like, even if you wanted to go, you know, do madness, you couldn't because there's so much here.
Yes, the hell you could.
Anyway.
No, that's mad, guys.
Yes, the hell you could.
He's in the room. But like,
Yes, you
I
can.
never finished.
yeah, I'm gonna tap you, don't worry. But like, it helped me develop in terms of my faith, and it was interesting because I ended up finding God in a place where I wouldn't traditionally have gone to. And then it's funny, Mike's gonna share his experience because you don't always have to follow because you feel everyone's going. You actually just genuinely might just connect.
Yeah.
Like some churches have a mandate for certain type of people. You know, they could have a mandate for youth. One could have a mandate for widows or whatever. So there are different
What's
missions.
SPAC's mandate? I'm banning it. Sorry, go on.
Did you just say SPAC?
I said, what's SPAC's mandate? I'm banning it.
Let me tell you, Mike.
Tell us what was your experience? What was that like? Church A and Church B?
I'm trying to go with SPAC Monday. Money and house.
Wow.
So
Yeah, go on, bro.
when we did
How do you just continue normally?
There's a time schedule.
Yeah, so when we...
I'm joking. No. So when we so I actually went to Church A first with this. That's what's funny. Went to Church A first, yeah. And like I just deep like in the morning, I was just like very reluctant. You'd be pulling me like, yo, like let's go. I'm like, nah, I'm coming, but I'm showering. But then we kept going, and then I was like, for some reason, like the church just wasn't.
It wasn't giving.
It just wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't giving. It wasn't giving. Like
Please don't say that word, bro.
No, Mike, it wasn't, bro. Like, this guy is giving.
It's tapped, man.
That thing, bro.
but I just wasn't feeling the church. But like when I spoke to Biss about it, he was like, bruv, like, you know, this is lit, this is that. I was like, not really for me. And then one of our other boys went to Church B, and then he was like, bruv, you come try this church. And I went there, I was like, this is
my kind of thing.
This makes sense. This is me. This makes sense.
Served
But-
you off after church.
I can't like that. I missed that, bro. Oh, they actually did. The other one had He's one had jollof, but I'm ready. It's not even like a coach.
You already know what type of church A and B is already.
It's not even that, but it's just.
You already know.
But it's just like when I would go to church A, like I just didn't feel like it was ministering to me. Like it wasn't filling my spirit. Like I'd go in and I'd come back out the same way. Like the the praise and worship wasn't gassing me. Like the sermon didn't
feel like
didn't get to me. Like the thing is, you know, tell a lie. The Bible study was okay.
Oh, you like that?
It was, yeah, it was
I think
decent.
Kim Kairos actually.
Yeah, I did. You know, it was decent.
Yeah.
It was decent. It was that one was. Do you know what I mean?
That
But
was
just the main. Nah, brother. It wasn't. I had
There's
to,
nothing
on
wrong with
Sundays,
that. That's
I went
why
to
there's-
my church B. On Fridays, I went to
Bible study.
the Bible study with Amanda.
And that's why I agree with what Bissy said is that, because I understand there is I feel like there's a church for everybody. I feel like, and that's why sometimes it's difficult for there not to be a culture. Because what happens is the church has a certain mandate, the same type of people go there, and unfortunately a culture develops.
I was gonna ask a question.
So it's difficult.
But we need to separate.
Yeah, I was gonna ask a question sometimes with after.
Is that because some people can make culture appear like that is
part of the church?
biblical culture?
No.
Whereas that's their culture,
Yeah.
but people mix it.
I agree.
To this is now how a church should be.
No, I
Because
agree. I
really
agree
and
with
truly, church. When we think of church, we're thinking of people.
100%.
So we're saying that the culture of the people of this church.
I definitely agree.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, go on.
Because I was gonna say, like, in terms of culture-wise, yeah, I feel like sometimes, given the backgrounds we come from, sometimes I feel like African culture can be used as this is what we do in church. You know what I mean?
110%.
And that's where having a relationship,
Daddy
like,
Jill.
Yeah,
that's why I feel like having a relationship, yeah, sometimes is what allows you to be able to decipher between which is actually culture and which is actually what is being like mandated and requested of you. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes I feel like, yeah, man, that's what probably disillusions certain people, because you go there and it's like, oh, rah, is this really what it's like? When no, it's not. But because culture gets mixed in with everything, everyone's just like, oh, nah, that puts me off, bro. So yeah, sometimes I feel like that's what kind of pushed people away, or sort of.
You know the crazy thing is, yeah, the culture piece, I swear we could talk about it all day.
Yeah, trust.
Because I think, like, as a pastor, your key focus is to ensure that Christ is elevated above culture at all times. Because I've seen so many people experience that being hurt at church because of the propagation of certain cultures, which is really
exactly.
unnecessary. And they almost push it like it's gospel. So
I was trying to flip that, you know. I was trying to say, have you man ever had a time, yeah, when you've questioned God? I actually questioned it.
You know what? Yeah, I have. I can't lie. There was a time in my life that I actually considered becoming Muslim. So,
yeah?
Really?
Yeah, because right at the beginning of uni, I definitely considered it, because the way Islam is very, very explanatory in its way. So it's like, I don't want you to do this, but I don't want you to do this because of this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And that made me so intrigued, because I'm an engineer by background, innit? And Christianity was a lot about faith, a lot about like believing and understanding these things. You should do it because sometimes. Maybe that comes from my how I was taught, but Islam to me was like almost like a book of life, where it's like, this is how life is, this is why you should do this, these are the reasons. Very theological in the way it broke things down. So I definitely considered it heavily.
How did you?
How did you?
I think for me, I actually just took it to God, and I think that I had an encounter with Him, and He was just like, I'm here. So I think from there I just felt. And also, that being said, my dad used to be Muslim as well, so I spoke to him about it as well. And just talked to him about Islam a little bit, and he kind of just like encouraged me a little bit and like talked to me, because obviously he could see why I was attracted to it, but I think he broke down like his own transition from Islam to Christianity. I think that gave me a lot of confidence as well, because although from a engineering background it feels good, I think what you have in our religion is that relationship piece where you're almost like, the love of God is so critical and important. And I think that's not something we had before.
And just
But,
as a final note, is that I feel like that relationship piece is so important, because that's what informs sort of like that spirituality, and then goes on to further inform just like what rules and regulations you then choose to abide by. And it looks different for each person, as Bissy said, that there's not sort of like a standard model. You all have to have your own sort of relationship, and for that you need to sacrifice and give that time in it. And I think for each individual, it's just like, I guess the starting point would be to try and sort of spend that time in it, because for myself, I know that I probably need to try and do that for me to then have more understanding or whatever. And I guess if anything doesn't necessarily make sense to you, just like BC says, if you're not understanding someone, the best thing to do is to try and speak to them and have that relationship, or at least make the effort to build that relationship. So that's my thing.
No, big. I can't lie, I think great conversation. What I would definitely say to everyone out there is, well, if you're seeking God, keep seeking. Love SB Live. You need support for hair. We love God. And yeah, thank you, SB Live. Let's go.
Yeah.
Peace.